All right, so away we go. I have the pleasure of doing two videos for Marsha and Ozzy today. So this first one I'm going to do is going to be of the exterior search. I know it's been a while since I've looked at any video for your team, so I just wanted to give you a friendly reminder that generally the way that I go about this is I take a look at the videos one time, make myself a couple of quick little notes, and then I get right to the video review. I think that's the most fair way to approach it. That way I'm not, beating the thing up all day long before I get a good fresh look at it. Of course, I was the judge at this event, so I have some intimate knowledge of the venue. But I've only looked at your video one time, and now I'm going to get right into the review. Before we get started, I did want to, let's see here, I did want to take advantage of that intimate knowledge and let you know that there is a hide underneath of this wheelbarrow. And what I discovered throughout the day was that unless dogs got in an area something like this, then there was no real change in behavior. The dogs had to get pretty close to it, and it was in truth acting quite inaccessible. I don't know what was in the CO's mind because, they don't share that stuff with me. But this one ended up being a little bit tricky, and these two handles here are, in fact, an environmental concern for a lot of dogs, but that was probably unexpected. But my point about that is that if the dog didn't actually get pretty close to the wheelbarrow, they weren't going to get anything. And then we also know that there was one inside the handle of the shovel back here. That one was pretty straightforward. The hardest part about that is it was pretty close to one of the vertical, the vertical posts. And then for dogs who are interested in marking and that sort of behavior, it could be tricky. The other thing that I wanted to go ahead and cover really quick, and we see this pretty regularly at some of these search venues, is these vertical posts in an exterior environment. And so I just want to talk about those for a quick second before we actually take a look at Ozzy. And, you can pretty much guarantee that at a public space, if there's a vertical post like this, there's been a dog who has considered marking it if it hasn't been marked, and probably pretty recently. It's not uncommon. Every time I go to a trial and I see posts like this, I just know that it's going to be tricky. And to have so many of them, included in your NW2 search, that's tough. It's definitely a challenge. Now, usually when I talk about these with folks, the handlers seem to be concerned that they're pulling their dogs off of odor. If the dog is investigating that post, I don't want to necessarily pull on my dog because what if it's odor? All right, so let's talk about it in the realm of reality. On a post like this, where might a hide be secreted? Unless there's a crack or something inside the post itself, there's only two places it can be, is underneath the base or all the way at the top, if there's a soffit or something. The other thing is if it has something hanging on it, like a flagpole or a fire extinguisher holder or something like that. But other than that, the very top and the very bottom are the only places that odor might be. And at an NW2, you can eliminate it being at the top. The other thing is that these posts are actually submerged into the ground. So there is no base or anything like that for it to be sitting on. So the answer is it's probably not on a vertical post. But I tell you what is on a vertical post is distracting dog odor, marking, and it doesn't even have to be dog marking. It could be fox, it could be possum, it could be anything, right? But the likelihood of it being target odor is pretty low. The only other, sort of argument you might say that I've heard before is, well, the odor is not on the post, but my dog caught it from there. I can just tell you from thousands and thousands of examples through my training knowledge and experience, the answer to that is also no. All right. So having that information going in, I can tell you right now, my strategy for this search would be something like this. I would check this chair first. My training mantra in regards to first box first, this happens to be the first hard item that your dog will encounter in the search area. And so knowing that the quickest way to get to B from A is to check everything on your way back, that chair would be checked first. Certainly, I'm going to allow my dog to investigate this edge of the wall, and then I'm going to check this hard item before moving on. Of course, we know that there is something here, neither here nor there. Doesn't matter that I didn't know. I still would be checking that next, and then off I would go. I would probably not start my dog off on these because the likelihood of them being fruitful is pretty low, knowing that I have a male dog. Yep, I think I want to get my dog to target odor sooner than later. So that's probably how I would address it. All right, off we go. Let's take a look at Marsha and Ozzy. Now, I know in the email you said to me, and let's just stop it right there. You said to me that you may be a little bit concerned about his sensitivity to being, there being so many people at the start line. Hey, how do I get my dog going when he's nervous around people and everybody's standing there looking at my dog from the beginning? Couple things. One is if I know that's the case, I'm not going to take a lot of time at the threshold. I'm not going to stand back here and hold my dog up and go, okay, dog, are you ready? Okay, you ready to go search? Okay, Pumpkin, I love you. All right, calm down. Are you ready to search? I'm not going to do all that stuff because it's just forcing the dog to be in a close proximity to all those people where I know he doesn't want to be. If I know that that's the case, then when it's time to go, I'm just going to jump right out and get right to it. I'm going to say, okay, buddy, let's go search, and I'm going to just get to work, right? And then certainly I'm not going to probably take that dog to the most likely distracting items in the search. Now, I know this is all Monday morning quarterback stuff. I have the benefit of knowing this because I was there, but I also have the benefit of the experience of recognizing and seeing these things play out in the past. So, right, there we go. Now, the next thing that I notice is that the dog isn't really hunting pretty much at any point, like ever, during the time that we're here. He's not hunting now. He's not hunting now. He's certainly not hunting now. Certainly not hunting now. So if that is the case, I feel like you recognize that because you're like, okay, bud, let's start over. I think that since you're all the way down there, instead of starting over and bringing the dog closer to people again, why not just go ahead and get him up against something and search it? Or if you feel like you don't want to recover that space, then there are certainly lots of other things. Back here, we can go ahead and get searching. But I don't think that I probably would have, if I'm worried that my dog is sensitive about people, brought him to the people, thinking that would probably rearrange everything because I don't necessarily think that it would. Right. Let me let that play forward a little bit. And as I had said before, I don't think that the dog is really searching, so not really actively engaged in hunting. And this odor was pretty small, and as we can see, so that's not, the wheelbarrow never really gets checked in here anyways. All right. Next thing that I would say is, let me hold that up there for a second, is what sort of tools does your team have to get engaged when we're not hunting? There's a myriad of them. You can pull a reward out and tease your dog up. You can pull them off to the side and give them a little bit of tactile engagement, voice inflection, body language, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What sort of tools do you have, and have you practiced using getting your dog back when they check out, when something startles them, when they are distracted, when they get tired, when they go flat, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Hopefully you have something and you've been practicing it, and it is at this stage of the game that I would be encouraging you to utilize that. The next thing that I see is that right there. So we, again, still haven't checked let me double check before I tell on myself here. Yep, still haven't checked that chair in the very front. Um, nope, nothing there, but still important. And then we're going to run right past something that has odor on it and not check it. I don't know exactly where your dog's odor threshold is. That's more something for you to know. But yeah, that wheelbarrow is not checked. And so this usually right here, let me let that play at real time because even so far as to run after your dog. So this is where people say to me, well, I think my dog caught odor back here. And since the dog has the nose, I'm going to follow the dog. And so once again, I can tell you through my training knowledge and experience, thousands and thousands of searches and so many dogs, that the answer is no. That doesn't happen very often. It does happen. But proof in the pudding is right here. You let the leash out, you follow the dog, you run behind the dog. What is the dog investigating? Absolutely nothing. The closest possible hide that it could be would be on this wheelbarrow, or I'm sorry, on this shovel. And nope, dog didn't even go that far. What usually is actually happening here is the dog visually targeting something. That is often the case. And the other thing is expectations through training. If we haven't developed the dog's expectation in training that it checks things as we move along, then it's not going to. If the dog's search intelligence is pretty low, then it's not going to value the wheelbarrow necessarily, and it's just going to try to run through. There you go. So I would have once again encouraged you to be investigating things, getting that dog in drive, getting the dog in hunt drive. Because I think had we done that by now, and we're 34 seconds into it, had we done that by now, I don't think what we have coming up would have happened. It's possible. It might still have, but I don't think so. Now, what we have here is the dog actually looks like it might be doing some investigating. We check the barrel, we check the shovel, but I'm not so sure we're in target odor checking mode because the dog is just running back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Bracketing, hold on, buddy, don't do that yet. Bracketing is a real thing, and it's something you should understand, and it's something that I spend a lot of time training people to do. But this is not bracketing behavior. Starting there, dog's just ping-ponging around, and you're trying to do a good job of staying out of his way, which is all fine and well. But that's not search behavior right there. What it is a distracted dog. Oh, hey, look at that. I think I'll pee on it. Bump. There we go. All right, so unfortunately, we do get an elimination there, and I'm sorry that that happened. Usually my recommendations for dogs who eliminate is that if we have time to check out the posts and pee on them, then we're probably not spending enough time working, meaning we could probably go faster, we could be a little bit more engaged in the search for target odor, not for random stuff. And let me just back it up just a tiny bit just to make sure that I'm pretty accurate here. Yeah, so right there on my clock, the search is exactly 1 minute long. So the dog has been into the search environment for a full minute, has not encountered target odor, has not been positively reinforced for target odor, and there haven't been any real exercises in getting the dog back. The only exercises we saw is taking the dog back to the start line, and that didn't work, and then just basically following the dog around, which also didn't work. So, that just goes back to that conversation I was talking about before. Hopefully you've been practicing some stuff like that. And if you haven't been, I strongly encourage you to discover those things, play with them a little bit, and see what it is that you can do to get your dog involved in the hunt earlier, increase the dog's search intelligence, and practice some techniques to get the dog back if in the event that you lose its attention. And I can tell you, once again, training knowledge experience, one of the greatest tools of getting the dog hunted started, or the hunt started in the beginning, is to check the first box first, second box second, third box third, etc., etc. And by doing so, we keep the dog, we keep the dog's nose engaged, we keep the dog's mind engaged. There's less visual targeting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there you go. To wrap it up, my thoughts about that are if you are concerned about him being sensitive around the people, try to not spend a whole lot of time there. Find a tool, if you don't already have one, to get your dog back in the hunt. Like I said, it can be reward teasing, it can be tactile, it can be a myriad of things. And also get to work from the start. Get to work from the start. And if that's not something that you've taught the dog in training, then that's something that I would encourage you to, to take a look at and see if that's something that works for you. In my experience, it does. I've actually never had it fail, honestly. So we're going to go ahead and let this play forward a little bit more because we get another angle. It's not a great camera view, but it is what we have. So here is from the start. And from the start, we can just really see dog. We know dog is not really searching. And then as we go back, see the orientation of your body and the dog and the wheelbarrow. Certainly, we're not investigating the wheelbarrow, but of course, you've already said at this point, let's just go back to the beginning. When you do go back to the beginning, look at the orientation here again of how the dog is up against the wall. Certainly not going to encounter that odor on that wheelbarrow. And then as we come forward, watch the ping-ponging motion back and forth here. Not actually odor hunting. There we go. So that's what I think about that. I'm going to leave that right there for you and get off to the interior search. I have a lot to say about that. There are some things that run in conjunction with this exterior search, such as inaccessible behavior, bracketing, line choices, and so on and so forth. I hope that this video has been helpful for you. I hope you found something useful out of it. I know that I enjoy watching your team. I enjoy watching you guys search and talking to you about odor hunting. So thanks a lot for sharing this with me, and I will see you again real soon.